That's recording now.
If I have that here, like the stand is obstructing my face.
What?
See what I mean?
I think it's just below.
How is yours? See, it doesn't stay. Can you see? See, I wanted to tilt like this.
God damn.
You're watching way too much.
On TikTok. You seen that one?
You and your TikTok.
God damn.
Well, now I know that sound. That's all I can hear. Right.
It's right up in my flipping.
In my face. Hello. Yeah, that's good.
Is it calm, yeah?
Are we keeping the headphones on for this?
Huh?
Are we keeping the headphones for this?
For what?
Because I think it's okay now.
It kind of gets you in the vibe though when you put it on.
Yeah, because you feel like you're in it.
Actually, no, let's just take it off.
Yeah, it's just a bit weird. It just the sound.
So that one's recording, this one's recording, and this is recording.
All set.
All set, let's go. God damn. So you're probably watching this and you're thinking, who the hell are we? Why are we making this podcast? So
Who the hell are you?
who the hell am I? I don't know, that's a very deep question. But
Who am I?
Sugar, do you want to introduce us both?
Yes. Hello, everyone. We are two doctors who are working part-time. And on the side, we are both exploring the world of creation and have both started multiple ventures in creating something. Hence why this podcast is called Making It.
Mm-hmm.
So on the side, I have dabbled the journey of YouTube and digital illustration and a bit of, that's it.
You've done a lot more than that. But yeah, essentially we're doctors by trade. We're currently doing it part-time so that we're sort of exploring our other ventures. I myself, I write every week. I've got a weekly newsletter. We make YouTube videos, both of us. We're both interested in medical education. You've got a social enterprise, Scully Own It.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on some medical education stuff. And so we've got a really nice mixture of not only, like things that we're creating, both kind of just like pure creative stuff, but also serious things like social enterprises and businesses, which require a slightly different type of mind, right? And
so that we're doctors by trade, but creative by nature, and we're trying to merge the both in the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, 100%. And like we obviously come from a conventional background of, we did the 9 to 5 and now we're sort of branching out. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of now at that stage where, where they've done the 9 to 5, but they feel like something's not there. Like
You're a doctor. Where'd you get 9 to 5 from?
Okay, 9 to 5 plus a couple night shifts plus a couple weekends. Is that you better, yeah?
Yeah.
So we're doing that, but other people who are doing their traditional jobs, right? Like, I feel like they're now starting to see that, number one, there's more to life than just working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like living to work, essentially. Now they're working to try and live, right? You've got remote positions, you've got people going part-time, spending more time with their family, exploring creative side hustles, or just doing things for the sake of creating, right? And yeah, like I've seen so many of my friends personally going into that stuff, but now we're all starting to have these conversations about what are you doing, how are you going to do it, like, how do you do this specific stuff? And so I think in some ways a lot of people have made podcasts probably like this before, right? But I reckon we're bringing something new to the table. We're bringing our own journeys, our own experiences, our own very specific sort of circumstances of being doctors from South Asian backgrounds, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to relate to.
And I think because of the conversations that we have had over the past couple of months that have really, really helped us in motivating to do our creative journey, we thought what better reason to bring those conversations forward and share them with you guys in the hope that it will also motivate you to start something and also give you a bit more guidance in making that into something more impactful and more sustainable.
Yeah, 100%. Why did we choose the title Making It?
Well, you chose it, but I liked it.
I chose it.
But I think
if you like it, let us know in the comments below. If you don't like it, don't say a word. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a better name, go for it.
Yeah, we can take suggestions.
But I think the whole idea behind Making It is the fact that we are kind of documenting our thoughts and process in real time whilst we're at a stage where we are very much at the beginning stage of everything.
Yeah.
So as opposed to going through our own ventures and reaching the end and then retrospectively giving insight, we're giving insight in real time and also bringing along other people with us who are also, doing similar journeys and just sharing each other's kind of thoughts and struggles and successes, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've like in the last couple of years we've just been like drawn to other people who are making things.
Yeah.
Like, and that doesn't have to be specific to either business or a YouTube channel, for example.
Yeah.
It could just be anything because there's so much to learn from different people. And like once you get exposed to that sort of creative process,
Yeah.
you just find it really interesting how other people do stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it like you said, it's about the process, it's about the behind the scenes, about the journey. It's not necessarily about the end product. This
Yeah.
is us talking about how we're doing things, figuring things out as we go along, and hopefully you guys will join us for the journey as well.
Exactly. And I think, creating can actually sometimes feel really, really lonely, especially if, you don't really have people around you who do the same things as you. So I just hope this podcast kind of brings all of us together and is a go-to point for you to kind of reach out to us and kind of make you feel like, we're doing this along with you, and make this process more fun, really. Isn't it?
Yeah, I think you summarized it quite well.
Cool. Okay, let's start. Episode 1 of Making It, finally.
Finally, been a long time in the works.
6 months, on and off.
It's been 6 months?
Yeah.
But, okay, how should we start this off? I think, how about we introduce ourselves? Say who we are to the people. Go on, you start.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
So my name is Suga, and I am a junior doctor working in West Sussex. And after a lot of persuasion from you, about a year and a half ago, I started dabbling in the world of video making and YouTube and creating content. And yeah, that's my story so far. And I'm still dabbling.
Yeah.
And the aim is to stop dabbling and try and make more.
Yeah, you've been sort of in and out of creating. I've been trying to make you make more YouTube videos than you currently have. But I feel like you make one and then you take a little time off, but you come out with like a sick video.
Yeah, but then there's that pressure, isn't it, in the time gap as well? Like,
what do you mean? As in like...
that the more you keep people hanging, the higher they expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's what slowly over time has just weaned me off.
Yeah.
But who's that artist who sang, "Now you're just somebody that I used to"?
Oh, that guy who just made a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, that's me.
Is that
That's me in the world of YouTube. I made 4 videos.
You made your one-hit wonder. No. You made quite a few.
Yeah.
And to be honest, as in, you started off... Your first video was amazing. Like,
thank you.
Like the amount of time you put into it, and obviously, usually someone's first video is kind of dead. I think mine was kind of dead. Actually, no, I spent quite a bit of time.
Your first video got a lot of views, and also it was like up
was
there.
Was it good?
It was elite.
Thank you.
Like it made me actually buy that product.
What, the little tablet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Watching that video made me get it. Do you know that?
Yeah.
And this was way before I even knew you.
Quite a few people said they bought it, but like it was such a... I don't know what it was, but like I had planned so much around that first video because I wanted to come out and like, kind of set a bar and not kind of embarrass myself. I don't know if you have the same feeling when you create
100%.
stuff. Okay, so we're both doctors.
Now it's time to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. So I'm a junior doctor, F3, currently doing a locum year, meaning that I've taken a year out of training to obviously just like earn more P. And
relate.
on the side, I'm making YouTube videos. I write a weekly newsletter. What else do I do? I'm quite interested in entrepreneurship, and yeah, just kind of like working, especially like on medical education and stuff like that. And should we tell how we met? How did we meet again?
Yeah, at the edge of a cliff.
At the edge of a cliff.
So actually,
this is a story you love telling everyone.
But yeah, so we met through other content creators, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So we had a mutual friend who is very, very good at what he does. He's one of the best filmmakers that I know.
Let's give him a shout out.
What do we say his real name? Or do we say his like Insta handle?
Was it Sham?
I think so.
I thought it was Zayn.
No, it was Sham. Well, there you go. Two great creatives.
Two of our close friends. One is a singer. His name is Zayn Gawi. He's now an ex-doctor, but he essentially makes music, amazing music. You can check him out.
Ex-doctor, but pro-musician.
Ex-doctor, but pro-musician. And then we've got Sham, amazing storyteller, filmmaker. So they both kind of like put us both together, right? And like we kind of just like, we followed each other for a bit.
Yeah.
We kind of kept tabs on each other, like as in like we hadn't like met or spoken, but we knew of each other.
But we knew that we existed.
We knew that each other existed.
And I think each of our friends like spoke highly of both, obviously.
Yeah.
But then when I first met you, I was like, oh my God, this is the guy that made me get the tablet.
Really? Is that what you're thinking?
I saw you and I was like, oh yeah, I bought that tablet like because of his
Did you
video.
oh, I can't even
But I
remember
think
that.
it's the first one I'm telling you that. How funny is that?
Yeah, so we went, where did we go? We went to, what was it, Dorset?
Yeah, we went to Dorset Durdle Door because
Yeah.
Sham had one of his friends who wanted to promote a Palestinian charity, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it was Sham then, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Sham was like, guys, come along. We're going to go to Durdle Door. Really nice aesthetic place. It was middle of lockdown, so we couldn't really go anywhere indoors. But he was like, cool, we've got a photo shoot planned for the weekend. Let's all come together and let's just all join. So even though we weren't part of the photo shoot, we all kind of like took our cameras and our gears. And then, it just became a photo shoot for all of us, didn't it?
And then, we met a lot of people that trip, some of which, quite a few of which, like, we still keep in touch with. I feel like we all kind of got to know each other a bit better. I don't know if that was the first time I met Sham as well, or actually, no, I had met Sham once before. So I barely knew any of the group. But then it was just so nice to see other South Asians who were creating stuff. But not only that, like, you had a very similar sort of background to me, which is, obviously you're a doctor, right? So you got it. You understood what it was like, and yeah, I don't know. We just got started chatting. We had this little sort of WhatsApp group where we would just bounce ideas off each other, and yeah, I think that just kind of like opened up this world to like some South Asian creators who were either making businesses or music videos or films, like
making something,
just making stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like growing up, I never had any friends who really did that. I was kind of like on my own in even just wanting to do that. So, and like, let's be honest, like South Asians, like traditionally, like we don't really go into art, the creative arts, right? Or at least I'm not exposed to that many of them. So that was like really exciting for me as well, because I was like, okay, now meeting all these people who are doing so, and not only that, but like they're doing it alongside their conventional careers, which is sort of like the leap.
Exactly.
That I took, you know what I mean?
And that was actually my first experience of being in a group of people who are all just very, very creative. And I think everyone's got that creative nature in them. But that was the first meetup where the intention was to create, whether it's using your camera, using your phone, being that person who's like kind of directing the shoot. Like we all had some sort of creative input in that trip.
Yeah, we did.
And that made me realize that, okay, I have spent 48 hours with a bunch of creative people, and I went home and I just had inspiration on inspiration, and I just felt the urge to then start thinking, okay, right, I really want to buy a camera now. I really want to learn. I want to get a subscription to Skillshare.
I think you had ordered it, right? You had ordered the camera.
I remember
that.
He made me order it. So
because you ordered a similar one to me, and we were like, by that point, I don't know if I had made YouTube videos. Had I made a YouTube video?
Yeah. So you started making YouTube videos.
So I had made probably a couple, and you were planning to do so, right? So automatically I'm like, okay, cool. Like someone's in the journey with me, right? And I didn't know really what you'd be making, but
neither did I.
But like I knew kind of about your interests. Like you're interested in music, your social enterprise, Scolione, shout out Scolione, which we'll talk about later. And yeah, so where do we go from there? So
I ordered the camera like a day before that trip. Again, not knowing really what I was going to use it for, but Sham just kind of gave me that inspiration to be like, all you need is just one thing and you just get started. And actually, you don't even need a camera. You can just, nowadays, the iPhone is just as good enough to get similar quality. But yeah, just being in that environment, being around people and having those conversations, it just made me realize, like, if that's what I got from just 48 hours, imagine what I would get if I continue to surround myself with like-minded people, but also people who have the similar backgrounds where this isn't what we do full time. Like, whether it's photography or video making or art, everyone in that group, besides Sham, doesn't do it full time.
Yeah, that's true.
But, we do it enough where people kind of think, are you a doctor?
You're spending a lot of time doing this. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is instead of getting an insight from those who have already made it and giving the wisdom from where they are right now, what we really lack, or what I lack when I look on the internet, is I don't really get any insight from people who are just starting and getting that real time insight as to what that process is like. And I guess that's why
we made
we're doing this.
Yeah,
that's why we're making it.
That's why we're making it. Yeah. So we both really love the title, like the name of the podcast, because not only are we keen on just like making things, like, is that figuratively speaking or just like literally speaking?
Yeah, literally speaking.
Right? Literally speaking, we like making things, whether that's social enterprises or businesses or like just content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all those things are, I think you can put them in one category, but they've obviously got their own like subcategories, right? Like they're all kind of like super interesting in their own right. But we're making things, but also at the same time, we wouldn't necessarily say that we've made it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like we don't have, we're not at a point where, you know, it's kind of like it can give us a regular income that we can quit our day job or something to that effect, right? So in essence, we're documenting our behind the scenes, we're documenting our journey,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of just seeing how it goes, you know, just talking out the sort of ideas that we have and like what we discuss behind closed doors about like how we can improve, you know, our YouTube thumbnails, what we should write about, what you thought about this, what you thought about this strategy, and we just thought that it'd be obviously really helpful for other people to listen to, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we are very blessed that within our mutual friends, we do have people
Yeah.
who can give us that information. Like all the things that I have learned so far is, you know, from my friends, including yourself. But there are people out there who aren't in the community of, you know, like-minded people, but also maybe don't have that direct contact of someone who can tell them the ins and outs of the kind of equipment you need or how you start out and how you do this. So I think this podcast, like I really want it to be that kind of that, you know, go-to place where if you are someone who is thinking about starting a creative entrepreneur journey, then hopefully this podcast is something that you think about and being like, okay, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Let me listen to these guys and see what they have found out in their journey, and hopefully we can also help them make it.
Basically just listen to us waffle until
Yeah.
we all figure things out together.
Listen to us, you know, big our friends up and, you know, put people in the limelight.
Just talk a lot of rubbish and just figure things out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of summarizes why we wanted to start the podcast. And what would you say, like, if you had someone in front of us and we had to kind of like convince them to obviously watch us and stuff, like, what can people expect from making it?
Okay. In all honesty,
It's just turned into an interview.
yeah, literally. In all honesty, I don't think either of us know where this podcast is going. And I think that's a reality because actually when you do start something like this, the reason why so many people hesitate is because there's a big risk factor associated with it, right? Like no one knows where it's going, but that's also the beauty of it. And I think, you know, I don't know what you can expect from this podcast, neither do we. But what I can say is that, you know, within the waffle and within the faff,
Yeah.
you will hopefully have at least 2 to 3 takeaway points which make you think, okay, like this could really direct me somewhere. And, you know, if there's at any point where we don't give that, then let us know.
Yeah.
And if there's any sort of thing that you are researching but you're struggling, again, let us know. And the most we can do is help and guide you, really.
Yeah, 100%. And like we've spoken about this in depth, like what do we really want to include in each podcast, right? Like, do we just want to keep it conversational and just like, because obviously like some of the times when we, for example, we have our conversations, like a lot of the time it's got a central topic, right?
Yeah.
But it just sort of spirals out of control.
Everywhere.
It might be super interesting, but at the same time we're like, we kind of have to structure it in some way because there are so many specific topics which we have talked about, which we want to talk about, and that we're trying to figure out, right? And obviously we're drawing on each other's experiences, and hopefully when we start getting guests on, then we'll draw from their experiences as well. And there's just so much to talk about, but we're hoping that it will kind of be a mix, right, of essentially
Yeah, definitely.
like topics that we want to cover, but also that interesting waffle.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think the most important thing is there's no right or wrong answer. Like just because like you hear it's like someone's certain journey and, you know, where they've gone and, you know, how certain things led them to where they are, like every journey is really, really different, but there is no right and wrong. I think, you know, there are different reasons why people start a creative journey, whether it's purely because of passion to kind of manage their work-life balance, or whether they have that intention to really try and strategize that passion into something a little bit more sustainable and monetizing. Is that
Yeah.
the word, monetizing?
Monetizing, yeah.
Well, now it is. But yeah, so I think everyone has their own kind of strategies to where they want to go. And I think it's a very complicated sector, you know, because I think once upon a time, it was literally about, you know, here's what I'm going to create. If you guys like what I do,
Mm.
you know, either buy this or, you know, let me share it. But now it's like every sort of creative input can essentially lead to a big full-blown startup or a big full-blown marketing campaign. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of ins and outs. And I think that there are so many things that you need to take into account. For example, the business side of things, marketing, logistics, and just
It's no joke.
it's not a joke.
And honestly, like I would say, I don't know about you, but like, literally when, say for example, in my like creative process, say for example, I'm trying to write a script for a YouTube video, my brain is constantly working, sometimes harder than it is even doing my day job as a doctor, because I'm not in like, what do you call it when you're just like automatic mode, right? You're just not in, what do you call it? But
As
yeah,
in,
you know when you just basically just like on,
I'm really trying to
I'm trying to think.
understand
You know when you're just doing things without having
yeah,
you thinking.
so it's just like
What's
a
that phrase?
reflex. Like, I know what you mean, but you're in a trance. Like,
Okay, let's just say automatic mode. Yeah, let's go back with that
You're in the
weird
mode.
phrase.
You're in the zone.
I'm in the zone, yeah.
You're in the zone.
But like, say for example, doing the conventional job, right? You know what you need to do, right? You don't have to think much. You just kind of, you can be daydreaming while doing it, right?
There's a protocol of how things are done. Like, you're almost told these are the steps, and also because you do it every single day, even though every day is different, it is a very repetitive process. Whereas the creative journey,
the creative process, like and like tapping into the creative mind, burns so much energy. Like I feel like almost so burnt out when I'm trying to think of new ideas, because you're literally making things come out of nowhere, and you're trying to make something new. You're trying to make sure, compare it to the old stuff, which shouldn't, you know, you're not trying to duplicate yourself, but try new things. Like you're creating things from scratch, right? And so honestly, like I underestimated how hard the work is to actually create stuff, or at the very least do it consistently, or do it like a professional. You know what I mean?
Also, I feel like now we're like, especially in the generation that we are, and more so Gen Z, is you have like the access that you have to other people's work is literally infinite. Like inspiration is at a click of a button, whether it's on your phone or you just walk down the street. But what that comes with is then, I think over time, the reason why a lot of people don't want to start making stuff is because they say that really famous phrase saying, oh, but there's already so many people that are doing what I want to do.
I hear that all the time, yeah.
And actually, there's something that you said to me, which was like, it was about
It was about an actor.
It was about an actor.
Yeah.
And you said, well, imagine.
So basically, yeah, it was. I think I heard this from Casey Neistat. It was like quoted from him essentially, but we both hear that a lot, right? And obviously, it's
I say that all the
exactly.
time, and I still say it, which is why.
Exactly, but it's kind of like a cop out, yeah. Do you remember his name now?
I think it's Gautier.
That might be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gautier or something like that.
With the face paint.
Yeah, face paint guy. Anyway, so essentially, when people say, "Oh, it's like it's too late to do that," or "There's 100 million other people already doing that,"
what's unique about me?
What's unique about it? But
the market is saturated.
The market is saturated. All that exactly
that.
Right. And I think what Casey Neistat, who's like a YouTuber vlogger, he basically said, like, say for example, you've got all these actors, right? When a new actor comes out, let's say just any new actor comes out, you wouldn't say, oh, there's already an actor who acts just like this person. There's already a Denzel Washington. Why is this guy trying to be the same? Every new actor like starts from nothing, right? Like you don't see them until you see them. So they've had to obviously accept the fact that there was already a Denzel out there and still go for it to become the new actor, right? And so, like, if you think about any of your favorite shows, your favorite music, like there's always been someone before you who's done something similar, and they wouldn't have existed if they had that same mentality, right? So yeah, but I think at the end of the day, people kind of understand that you could do it, but they block themselves off from taking that first step, because it's just kind of like a comfort mechanism, just
definitely
to come up with that excuse.
Like, I think a lot of people just instantly give themselves that pressure of like, is my idea organic, or how can I make it organic? How can I make it authentic? How can I make it different? But actually, like what I've realized from like what I've created so far, or put online, is all the stuff that I make that at the time of making, I just think this is just like it's not good, it's not my best work. So many other people have done it. I will then publish it, and the reception I would get from that is just mind-blowing. A lot of the comments would be like, this is such a breath of fresh air, like I really like the way you have worded things, it's just a new way of thinking. And I'm just thinking in my head, really? Like, so you'd be very surprised that an idea that may seem old to you
Yeah.
may be new to someone else.
And very interesting as
exactly,
well. Yeah,
because they may hear it for the first time from you, you know? So I think
or for the first time, like
ever.
exactly. 100% agree. Like, there's so many things that say, for example, you're always surrounded by people you follow who are saying the same things, right? So you're literally like knee deep in all that information, right? But say, for example, to someone else who has never been exposed to that information, you mentioned the most basic sort of piece of information
in your eyes, in your world,
from
the
your
most
world,
basic, yeah.
and it like blows their mind essentially, right? So yeah, literally, I 100% know what you mean. And what I was gonna ask was, why did you start creating? I don't think I've asked you this before.
Yeah.
It's a very deep question, but like, what made you? Okay, let's say, were you creative growing up? Let's start with that. Were you creative growing up?
Okay. So, was I creative growing up? 100%. I fully was. I am the creative one in the family.
Oh wow!
I know.
Is there a round of applause button? No, I'm joking.
Yeah. So like, I think ever since I was a kid, like I was obsessed with art. So like, I would paint stuff, I would draw stuff, and it actually came from my grandma, who like in Bangladesh, like you've got these kind of like really thin metal wires, and like you can kind of shape them and tie knots in them, and you can make like anything.
Shapes, yeah.
So she used to make a lot of like baskets and stuff, and then like she used to teach me. So she was a very crafty woman, and then I looked at what she does, and I was like, you know what, this is like really, really fun. And that's where it all just started. And then in school, I was gifted and talented, whatever that meant. Basically, it just meant that you had access to some workshops that you can go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but then that died down very soon because my parents were like, this is not really a career.
Yeah.
There's no stability.
They were right. No, I'm joking.
Let's cut that bit out.
Okay.
But yeah, so they said, this is great, this is fun, but you know, you can't make money off this. Like, you know, you can't make a living off this. What are you going to do? Like, paint pictures for the rest of your life and, you know, put food on the table? You can't do that. So then obviously it was like that typical thing. Like, I do have a very cliche story and people won't believe me, but this is exactly how it was. They were like, become a doctor. You're good at science, become a doctor. Luckily at that time, I actually really liked science. And also during that time, I didn't have any examples that I saw of someone who was successful from having art as a living. Like, I don't, now, if I was that 17-year-old now, there's so many examples, you know, whether it's online creators or offline creators, right? Now we're in that climate where creation can get you food on the table. And that too, really, really good money for really good working conditions, right? But at that time, this did not exist. So now I obviously went through the medicine route, and I think the one thing that kept me a bit sane throughout that time in med school was actually, you know, doing like, you know, hosting events and, you know, making like campaigns and all those things. And I think people forget that, you know, when you ask, oh, have you always been creative? It's not always about like making stuff, but it could be just setting things up or creating kind of certain memories for people, you know? So it doesn't have to be in the form of an actual piece, you know?
You don't have to have like a podcast or YouTube channel to like show for it, right? And so throughout uni, like I got involved in making a lot of like drama and plays, and that's where I got a really, like, that was my first experience of scripting, and I just loved it. Like, it was just so at university,
much fun.
What, you were scripting
plays?
So
I scripted one of like, so I was part of the Asian Society. I was the president for it, and then every year there's like an annual show. So in that show, every year it used to be just a talent show. So it used to be here's a Bhangra dance, here's you know, these musicians, and you know, here's the tabla player and whatever. But then I was like, let's make this into a show. And one of the inspirations I've always had was Goodness Gracious Me. Like, I loved the writer of Goodness Gracious Me, and I loved the scripting, and I just loved that show. And I was like, let's just do like a uni version of that and make little skits. So the kind of skits we made was it was keeping up with the Khans. So essentially, so we made like a mini sitcom called Keeping Up with the Khans. I played like the grandma, and the other students like did other roles and stuff. And we scripted it all from scratch. And then, because we obviously got our uni stage, that was my first experience of handling lighting and music and transitions and how you go off stage and on stage and how you position yourself. And that process was just like amazing. Like, it was just different to being like, here's a textbook of all the things that can happen wrong in the body. And here's how you can fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
So do you reckon like your mind almost craved a bit of like a creative outlet, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously because like studying medicine, like okay, I wouldn't really say it's creative as such. I mean like the most creative med students might be on the day to day is like
Yeah.
drawing their own notes or
Mm.
drawing out anatomy,
Mm.
sketches and stuff like that. But like in terms of having a creative outlet,
Yeah.
like I don't think I've thought about it properly as well. Like what I sort of did during uni, that kind
Yeah.
of like kind of proved to myself
Mm.
that maybe there was a sort of creative side that I
Yeah.
kind of liked.
But like one thing, like I realize now that medicine can be creative,
Mm.
but much later on in the process.
Yeah, once you know the
So,
basics.
Yeah, and actually, like it is a very creative profession in the sense that everything that is going well in medicine comes from creation and innovation.
Yeah.
You know, the top surgeries, the scannings and machinery, everything.
Mm.
Like medical engineering is creative,
Yeah.
but you only get to that point after years and years of studying.
Mm.
And actually now we're seeing a lot of medical students having the guts of being very innovative during
Yeah.
COVID, making their own versions of masks and stuff. But again, it takes a long time for you to allow
Yeah.
your innovation to actually flourish into something.
Yeah. Or maybe also like now that med students are doing it more like commonly, right? Or maybe it's just that they've got the confidence now to be like, okay, now it's not necessarily something where you have to become a consultant like 10, 15 years down the line before you can make a change. You can actually do it as a student, and sort of as they flatten the hierarchy. Now, I don't know,
Yeah.
like we're seeing more med students doing really ambitious things, right?
Yeah, and in all honesty, they have us millennials to thank for.
Yeah.
Because actually, us millennials were the first who started appearing in BBC shows, who started making Instagram accounts of medical blogging,
Yeah.
giving medical advice online. Us millennials were the first to start
experience
medical
social-
YouTube.
Even social media basically came out doing.
We
Yeah, that's
infiltrated
true, actually.
social media despite being told in medical school that is seen as unprofessional and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I think we were the first generation to really show you can be professional on social media, and actually it's not all about just acting a certain type of way. Like social media is a very good platform for education, and nothing beats education until you speak in the language of young people, right?
Yeah.
And education goes way beyond teaching other medical students. Public health is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And social media is a big part of that. So
100%. I'm just thinking like social media is like, even now I still can't fully understand or articulate like how useful it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you can't even put it into words. It's just, it can be useful or entertaining to so many different people for so many different reasons. And there's some like, TikTok or YouTube channels now, which are the most niche kind of weird sort of topics, right? But somehow people still find value from them. They can still earn a living from holding that attention, right? And like, it's all essentially about this, this attention economy. That was like, I don't know who coined that. I think it was this marketer, Seth Godin, right? But he said essentially everyone's fighting for attention nowadays. It's not necessarily like, it's not for your money. The person who has your attention basically has your money.
Yeah.
But also, just because you have someone's attention doesn't mean that you know how to turn it into like an income stream.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, it's not only just about making money. It's about
No.
like what it means to you to create something, to put it out there into the world.
And
To
create impact.
Yeah, create impact,
For sure.
breathe life into something that you can be proud of. Like, say for example, like when people have asked me like, why do you write every single week? I don't necessarily do it now because I mean, when I did start, I did think, okay, maybe if I could gain something from it, it would be nice to also maybe have it as an income stream. But I said to myself, do I really want to do this? And now I do it. Sometimes I just write and I send it out to my newsletter subscribers without even sharing it because I don't have the time or whatever. But it's just the process of doing it which makes me continue to do so. And so it's nice sometimes to just have something that you can just put out into the world just for yourself before anyone else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that actually. They do like offline creating. Like
they're too scared to.
Yeah, they're too scared to put it out. But
yeah.
like say for example, they create for the sake of creating. Like they might draw in their notepad. They might sing to themselves. They you know what I mean? There's so many different things people are making or creating, and it doesn't always have to be shared.
And that's okay if you don't share
okay,
it.
yeah, 100%.
Wait, so have you always been creative?
Have I always been creative? I don't know. It might be. I personally think maybe everyone has a creative side,
Mm.
or they say, oh, do you have a creative bone? Some people are
Yeah.
maybe more confident at like sort of expressing themselves early on, or they kind of get drawn towards something which would be labeled as creative by society, right? But I'm trying to think. Okay, so when I was a teenager, I had a gaming channel. I'm not telling anyone what that is. Don't. I think you know the name. Anyway, so I had a gaming channel for about 5-6 years. This was before like YouTube was a big thing, and I didn't have any social media. Like YouTube was my first social media as well, which is nice because I've sort of come back full circle, right? But essentially, I was really keen on playing games, mainly Call of Duty, and I'd be sharing my videos. You don't want to hear about this, do you?
No. This
Call of Duty.
because it's just I'm trying to picture.
Literally, like
I'm trying to picture that the you in you.
the little gamer
like,
fader, yeah. But essentially, I loved. I basically have a really addictive personality, so I was basically addicted to this one game, Call of Duty, and I started watching people like videos online. I don't know how I just started watching it, but then I was like, I kind of want to be like these people who are just sharing their footage.
Yeah.
Like I want to make something online and like edit it really nicely, put music to it, and that whole creative process, I loved it. Like that was probably the first time in my life I had experienced like what they call flow. Like I'm just there for hours and hours, skipping meals. My mom shouting at me, "Come down, eat your food."
I was literally about to say,
you know what I mean?
Just imagine, like you're just in your room, like
I'm just
in
doing
the
that
dark.
not
like,
even.
Like
No,
in
like,
the dark, you haven't washed your duvet.
No, I'm not like I wasn't
like,
being a nitty or
just,
anything like that. Yeah,
just...
like I had a proper schedule. Like my parents made sure that okay, like balance this. They were like balance it with your work. So thankfully they kept me in check. Otherwise, I probably would have went off the rails. I can't lie. But so yeah, I'm making these videos. I'm starting to share it. I'm starting to share it online, right? And like back then, gaming was like the thing for YouTube.
Fully, like you guys were like this whole group, but actually some of the top creators came from that.
All these guys like KSI, all gamers, right? And back then it was very early days. I remember I was watching other YouTubers and there was this race to the first million. Nobody had hit 1 million before, and so like that's how early it was, right? So that was like, and back then it wasn't. I don't think anyone really was open about how much they earn or whether or not they were earning. Money was nothing to do with it, right? But
what was it about then?
I don't know. It's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was just
I do think about that. Like I think, is it the community of other gamers and that you've all just, like you've all found each other and...
No, but the thing is you can play but not necessarily share stuff online.
Yeah.
I did want to be part of that group, but also, I don't know, maybe something inside me was like, I want to entertain or perform or kind of... I always found it interesting having...
Because the gaming community was and is still really big, right?
Yeah.
But I just, like, someone coming from the outer perspective of things, I'm just trying to understand, like, what is it that made it so viral? Like, Because your channel, like, did really well back in the days, didn't it?
Yeah, I think I had more subscribers than I currently do now.
It did really well. I mean, not that I didn't follow you back then, but I've seen it.
But at the time, like, that was a lot for... Like, I think I nearly had just 2,000, but... I was doing it for 5-6 years, right? And I don't know, I think maybe I kind of wanted to share my gameplay with other people so that they could obviously know how good I was. I wanted to play around with editing to be kind of known as someone who could edit my videos as well. There was a mix of people, right?
And when you did like upload those videos, like what were the most common things that people wanted from you, like in the comments and stuff?
I don't know. It was
or was it just like, oh, sick game, bro?
Yeah, but I don't know, like, okay, this is... shall I tell you, imagine how early this was. I was like literally like 13, 14 years old. And when I uploaded, I would refresh it like non-stop just to see. When a comment would come through or like would come through, I would get so excited. Just like now, you see like on Instagram, you get all these likes coming through. But with that first feeling of, oh wow, I'm getting likes. Like, it's like dopamine going off.
Yeah, like it's not about the numbers, but it is about the numbers.
Yeah, it kind of was. But even back then, I would get like 2-3 likes when I first started, and I would just continue to make, do the work.
Yeah.
And that drive to sort of get better at the actual thing, not just share for the sake of sharing, but like that drive to actually be like, I want to be better at this, share it with other people. That makes you do better, even if the audience isn't there yet, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, but yeah, that was me doing uni. I'm not sure what...
Just one more thing before you like kind of...
jump off.
Move on to the next point. at the time when you were uploading like your gaming videos and you were getting into the zone of it,
Yeah.
did you realize at that point and at that age that what you were doing
Yeah.
and the skills that you were learning was something really special, and it's something that would be very valuable then or even later on in your life?
100% not. The only thing I could think of was how I could defend playing games to somebody who would say, "Why aren't you focusing on your medical
Yeah.
career?" So I remember I specifically used one example, which was that surgeons who used to play games were better surgeons, like just physically, right, with their manual dexterity, right?
Yeah, true.
Which is a very
And it's
common.
very quick.
It's a very common thing.
Reflexes,
Anyone
yeah.
who does stuff, with the hands, make things, plays games, you got good reaction, blah blah blah.
Because it is quite intricate, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And now we use robots and we use all these
Mm-hmm.
tools and stuff. Apart from that, I couldn't think of anything else. I was like, oh, I can edit a video, but I couldn't imagine myself doing that for anything else. I couldn't imagine playing a game could be valuable in any other way besides what I was already doing, and if other people found that valuable. I mean, my friends, they were like, they knew me as the guy who was really good at the game and had a YouTube channel, but nowadays, being a creator has blown up, and it's so much more accepted as well, right? It's seen as a legitimate way to kind of like, make an income, make an impact, and I think the world is starting to open their eyes that damn, like, creators play a real big part in so many different things. You know what I mean? So many different aspects of life, whether that's kind of entertaining people, educating people, whether that's holding the attention of target consumers who then businesses can then work with, and
Or raising awareness.
like,
like,
literally
big issues,
everything.
yeah.
So, and in a lot of ways, like, the traditional kind of jobs that some people had are now being seen as essentially it was valuable because they were creating stuff or making things. But I never really saw the benefits of it until the end of med school, which when I was kind of like, okay, it's weird that now that I'm coming full circle back to creating, because for a long time during med school, I feel like I dropped all my hobbies.
Yeah, so you had the gaming channel, and then you went into like med school and whatnot.
Yeah.
What was the point that made you say, I want to start a YouTube channel?
So I was before the
self-help productivity YouTube channel.
Oh, that was very late. I was as soon as I made my Instagram channel, my Instagram account, it was private, it was public sometimes, blah blah blah.
But you had this before YouTube.
Yeah, but just like it wasn't to
Just
be
to
like a
crack on.
creator or an influencer or whatever like that. It was just because I liked to share nice pictures. I'd put a bit of filters on it. You know what I mean? Just kind of like that maybe is a bit of a creative side, right? And I would share that, and then I had the idea to basically make a business which was like to help medics and dentists get into med school and dentistry, right? Like every other med student does, basically. This was in my 4th year, and I remember I was trying to set it up. I was learning how to make a website, which I found really interesting. I was doing that, but I didn't know how to run a business at all. I had no understanding of how to run a business, the basic finances, marketing, all this stuff, right? And I was like, where do I start? Like, how do people, where do I find how to do the next step? And I would speak to different people, and one of my friends was like, he was almost like, he almost berated me. He was just like, bro, just like open a book. Like I've told you so many times, just read.
Just do it, yeah.
Yeah, because he was dropping straight facts, and I was like, where's this information coming from? And he was like, books. And I was like, I had never read non-fiction books like that, right? I didn't know what format they'd be. I was like, what would they even consist of? Like literally, I had no idea. Started reading some books via like audiobooks, right? Audible. And I would just literally like rip through so many. And that helped me start the business. Then I started reading into self-help, productivity. And I sort of thought, okay, am I going to continue making businesses? Or at some point, like, should I just make a personal brand? And that was in my final year med school, where I was like, okay, instead of making these individual companies, which may or may not fail, the likelihood is the first few will probably fail. I've got to be realistic with myself. If I make a personal brand, right, if you try to make yourself the sort of company or the brand, then you can never really fail. As long as you're being yourself and you're growing an audience, they like you for who you are.
And it's just more relatable, isn't it?
More relatable, but also you can pivot left and right without losing your initial audience. If you make a business, people aren't following you, they're following the business.
And what that business is for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the business fails, then you got to start all over again. They don't know who you are. You can't leverage that, right? You can't carry that capital over to the next opportunity. But I was like, okay, so actually made sense in terms of efficiency to try and build a personal brand.
Mm.
But I had to get over the whole kind of idea of me being the face of
Mm.
something, right? Like, and so it did take me some time, even my final year of med school, to be like, to pluck up the confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. That's why it took me like a year to start writing, and then another half a year to make the YouTube. So that was basically my journey.
Fair.
Sorry for the life story.
No, like, I mean, gave a lot of context to it for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, like, just from your story, it's just that you had this moment, and I think everyone can relate to that, where we all have this moment where you're teaching yourself something,
Yeah.
because, you know, for whatever reason, you may not have had the opportunity to learn about those things in the conventional way, i.e. taking a course or having a degree in it. And also financial barrier is a huge thing for a lot of people nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things that anyone is capable of doing, but they have a lot of struggles and they have a lot of barriers that stop them from going there. And actually they take the unconventional route, which is very similar to you, where they're like, okay, right, I can't afford to learn it from another person.
Yeah.
So let me teach myself. And again, books is the main thing, right? And so you taught yourself something, you tried to apply what you learned
Yeah.
and made something of it, and it happened. And then you realize, like, oh my God, like, this is actually proved to be really, really good. Let me share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's essentially the root of starting to create something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's pretty
100%. Like, no, when you're choosing to share something,
good.
there's so many benefits which like can't necessarily be articulated. Like when, if you ask someone, why would you make a podcast, for example,
Yeah.
like I used to think, okay, you make a podcast
To chat shit. Sorry.
to chat shit, but also like hopefully make money or get famous or something very basic, almost like that, right? Then like obviously once you're creating, you're like, okay, now there's so many different benefits to making a podcast, for example, right? I nearly burped on the. It'll probably come a bit later, but anyway.
I thought it was going to come out the other side.
Oh goddamn. Okay, so essentially, like, take it from the beginning, right? Number one, you got to think about what you're creating. You're gonna write maybe some scripts if you want, but that helps you articulate your thinking. You're gonna learn how to use some software. You're gonna become more confident. You're gonna put yourself on camera. You're gonna have to learn how to use a camera. That can help you make other things with the camera. You know,
Yeah.
video courses, whatnot. You're getting, building relationships with your guests. You're networking. Like there's so many things which people don't realize.
Yeah.
That comes out from creating, you know what I mean? You may only think like there's 5 things, but in between, even without you knowing it, or you understand it, and a lot of the time the only way you can kind of like experience it is to actually go through it to realize how important creating is for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But also on the flip side, like, all of those things that come into it is often seen as like really daunting for a lot of people. So actually those reasons that can motivate someone can also be reasons why people don't want to start, because because some people honestly just want to start a podcast, for example, purely for the sake of, they learn a lot from the conversation that they're having with certain people, and they just want to keep it at that. Like, they're not looking for book deals or sponsorships and whatnot. And then, even though they're seeing the world where they're like, okay, so if you're not going to be open to, for it to upgrade to a certain point, why are you doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
But I think, again, there's no right and wrong, isn't there? So I think even if, like, you're bound to get bombarded with a lot of opportunities from whatever you're creating. I think as soon as you share something, you have to be really open to the fact that there are a lot more people seeing you than you think, but also you always have to just take a step back and be like, okay, why did I do this to begin with? And what they're offering aligning with why I started? And if it isn't, cap it, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people get sidetracked and that their journey goes very, very differently. And then they reach that kind of like midpoint crisis of like, oh my God, like, the brand has changed so much. It's not me anymore. I feel like I'm really lost in this. I don't know where the channel or whatever is going and whatnot.
Did you think about that before you started creating, like, essentially, why am I doing this? Or do I want to do,
God.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I mean, everything that I just said, I'm going to contradict myself now. Like, also having those questions in place from the beginning can be really negative and actually can drive you absolutely nuts. Because I remember when I thought about starting a YouTube channel, I started brainstorming like all the reasons why I want to do it.
Okay, yeah.
And it wasn't actually starting a YouTube channel. It was this whole thing about personal brand.
How long ago was this before you made your...
So this was during lockdown, so almost a year ago. So I started the YouTube channel just at the point of lockdown, so literally a year ago, or a year and a half. And I asked myself, why do I want to start it? And then the first thing I just thought in my head was, I've just got a lot to say. Like, I don't know what it is. I've just got a lot to say. And I feel I never at any point thought, oh, what I think is really valuable.
Yeah.
It was never egotistical like that. It was more so that I learned so much from just listening to people and seeing social media and seeing other people, that actually when I got feedback from my close friend circle saying, hey, Shugs, like our conversation here today, it was, I honestly learned so much. You should really think about sharing it and whatnot. When I started getting comments like that, that's when I thought, oh, okay, maybe what I say actually matters to a little.
So you got like essentially direct feedback from people to be like, you should do this essentially.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. I think those, like, the difference between someone starting and someone not starting is really highly impacted with who you surround yourself with. I think if you surround yourself with people who generally not just motivate you, but give you really constructive criticism and feedback, and actually see you as like, okay, this is going to relate back to Kanye's documentary, but everyone needs a Coodie in their life, right? Coodie, anyone who hasn't watched the documentary, essentially the documentary is it was made like decades ago. And one of Kanye's close friends, who was a videographer and photographer at the time, started filming Kanye's journey, and was like, you know what, I see a lot of potential in this guy. I'm going to film him. And I think everyone has a Coodie in their life. And I think it really does take a lot of self-confidence for you to be the Coodie to yourself. It takes a lot of guts for you to be like, hey, you can do this. Like, when you see on Instagram all these like self-care, self-motivated memes of like, don't let others stop you from what you're doing, tell yourself every day you're beautiful, like you're confident. But realistically, like, you don't listen to your own advice that you give out, let alone tell yourself.
You know what, it's actually really hard. I've been in a position where, like, 5-10 years ago, there's no chance I would put my face online and do what essentially we're doing now, right? But like, for a lot of people, there's a legitimate fear of, there's so many different reasons why they wouldn't put themselves out there, right? A lot of the time it's generally, number one, like we said, they don't feel like they're bringing anything new to a saturated market. Second one is that they feel like sort of fear of putting themselves out online, right? But it can be scary, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But typically we only hear the advice from people on the other side who have already kind of like overcome it.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe at some point we should break down like essentially the sort of steps we took to overcome that, because I didn't go from like 0 to 1. Like there were stages in between which I felt like, okay, I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready for the next
they're
step.
fluctuant as well, isn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah. You have your moments. You go up and down. Some points you're just like, I CBA with Instagram, I CBA with YouTube. I just want to go off the map for a bit.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you have like a...
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm still off the map.
You're still off the map,
yeah. Somebody. This should be the theme song to my life.
We'll check it on.
Oh man. But I think like it's really easy to give fearless advice to others, but it's really hard to give that fearless advice to yourself. And actually, when you give advice to yourself, you're more practical because you're the one, like you're aware that you're the one that's going to take the risk. And so yeah, essentially, like if you're not really surrounding yourself with those kind of people who really point out like the good things in you, then essentially like it's a huge struggle to A, start something, but also B, be really consistent at it. Like consistency is like a big topic in like for everyone who's starting out, and it's so hard. Like it is really, really hard. I think when I hear a lot of stories of other creators of how they're really self-disciplined and how they're really consistent and whatnot, I think at the beginning I saw it as like a holy grail, saying that, okay, right, if they can do it, I can do it. But now I realize that actually, like, do not compare yourselves. Like, you don't know their situation. You don't know their responsibilities. They don't know your responsibilities and what you've got outside all of this. And actually, if you create a very genuine brand, whether it's a personal one or whether it's a non-personal one, then your audience will respect you no matter what. As long as you kind of maintain that relationship, even if you're not being consistent, because for example, like I have a lot of creators that I follow, and if they go off the radar for a bit, like I feel like it's not going to affect me personally. Like I just carry on with my day, But if they all of a sudden come back and do something completely different because they've had like an epiphany or whatever, then it would be hard for me to refollow and re-engage in what they do. But if in that gap that they've had, they've kind of communicated like kind of like the changes and their thought process, their journey, then I would be more inclined to be more invested in it.
Yeah, and it depends how close you have like a relationship to the person as opposed to what they're creating. Like sometimes we follow people for them, right? Whatever they do, we'll watch it. Like that's typically like, you know, the lifestyle vloggers. You'll watch them drink their tea, go to the toilet, whatnot. Okay, maybe not that far, but you know what I mean. But essentially that's what they'll be sharing online. But you'll still watch it because you like them, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to someone who does something very specific, right? If someone is making videos on football and you just want to see that, then if they pivot to horse riding, I don't know, like you're not gonna carry on watching it unless you're interested in that, obviously. But yeah, there's honestly so much different things we can talk about. What do you think we should? What other kind of topics do you reckon we'll be talking about in this first season?
So in this first season, I think it would be, essentially how you can start making it. You know, so what is the kind of bread and butter in everything, but the common themes being around, again, from our experience, is like the only advice that we can give is in the context of if you're someone who has a full-time job or a non-creative job on the side, or not just job-wise, but you've just got other obligations that are nothing to do with this creative journey. How do you manage going from left to right? How do you, like, again, if you're someone that has absolutely no knowledge on the aspects of starting something or the business side of things and whatnot, what would help you to start? So essentially, what would help you to start? What would help you to keep going? And showing a very realistic journey of the things that you are going to expect when you start, because it's not smooth sail.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, I think you summarised it quite nicely.
Yeah.
Off the cuff as well.
I've completely forgotten what I just said.
Basically, how
but it's recorded.
How we start, how we keep going, and a realistic expectation of people who are making it, who are making things, who are in the process of trying to make it, who haven't already got everything. So yeah, I think you
and look,
quite
like,
nicely.
we're not experts. We haven't made it.
Yeah.
And also our
We're
version,
losers.
we are losers.
We're the biggest losers.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
We're not
God, you
experts,
really triggered me, man.
We're not experts. Yeah, go on.
But oh my God, I've got mind block. It was really good.
Okay, maybe I'll finish off. Okay. Thank you so much for watching the first episode.
No, it's not finished
Let me
yet.
finish this off.
It's not finished. What was it? Okay, right. We're not experts. And our version of made it. So our destinations are very different. So it's like, do you know what? End this episode, man. On to the next. We're
No,
done
you
now
can't end it
here.
like that now. You
We're
gotta
done.
finish
We're
it
done.
off.
You know what? Thanks for watching.
Well, you were gonna go
Hope
all
you
deep. You were gonna go all
hope
deep
you
with it.
enjoyed our fam. Well, now it's gone up to the surface now. Completely lost it. No, but it was a really good one as well.
Probably wasn't a good point then.
Yeah, probably wasn't.
Okay. I'm joking.
Gamer. Okay, cool. So that sums up our first episode. So thank you for listening. And yeah, if you are someone that is thinking about making it, don't know where to start, please join us on this journey, where we can find out more for you.
100%. So like, yeah, even if you've never made something in your life, if you just want to follow us for the journey, if you enjoy hearing us waffle, then absolutely follow us, join us on the journey. And yeah, we've got loads more videos coming up, hopefully, on the topics of, you know, how to get started, all about, you know, the behind the scenes of what a creator go through, whether that's creating for like creative side projects like YouTube and writing and whatnot, but also business, social enterprise. We usually talk about all those little topics, right? And yeah, hopefully we'll have guests coming on soon, but that'll be maybe a bit later. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you follow us at you know, all our social handles. Anywhere where you listen to podcasts, it should be hopefully on there, and we will see you very soon.
And one last thing, if you are someone who is making it, then please do contact us. We'd love to get to know more about it. And just any tips and tricks that you want to share with anyone, just contact us and we will do the thing. But yeah, thank you for watching and thank you for listening.
Sounding out pretty nicely.
Until next time. Oh.